And all right, we are live now for our quarantine drinking team series with my good friend Rhonda Kallman. She is the founder of Boston Harbor Distillery in Boston. You're joining us live from Boston.
Cheers. Yes.
Cheers, yes.
Boston. It's a pouring rain out there today.
Is it pouring rain? Right. Well, we're starting out with a little.
I don't have at the distillery is a fireplace, but you all know why.
Now, the building that it's in, how old is that building? Is that the building that it's
1850s. Yeah.
1850s. Wow. So there's some real history there. And as you are watching this stream on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube Live, if you have any questions for Rhonda, ask them down below. She'd love to take your questions. We'll get kind of to where I first met you was at the craft beverage expos the last several years, everywhere from California to Kentucky, right?
It's a great show. Absolutely. It's in Louisville now all the time, and it's awesome.
We'll be seeing you in Louisville this year. And but just for people who don't know, Rhonda's a real pioneer and has a real history in the beverage space. Rhonda, you back in the day were the co-founder of Samuel Adams, a little beer called Samuel Adams, right?
Yes, that was back in 1984.
Tell me how that happened.
At this a while. Jim. It's really Jim Cook. He's pretty amazing, and he actually is the sixth consecutive oldest son to be a brewer in his family, and has 3 Harvard degrees. And I was a bartender and a waitress. That was my first love, but I was actually a secretary, and I was Jim's secretary. So I'd always come in a little hungover and a little late. But when he decided to start a beer company, he knew about beer and he knew about business, but didn't know about bars. Now that's where I came in.
Very nice.
Served me well all these years.
And that was in '84 that Sam Adams started.
That was in 1984. And this is a true story. When he asked me to start a beer company, I said, Jim, there's only one problem. I don't really like beer. I like whiskey. And he promised he'd make something that I would like. And of course he did. And now I've come full circle and now I'm making whiskey. So
and now you're the one making whiskey. You started Boston Harbor Distillery. How long has it been there?
I started it in 2012.
Yeah.
And as we know, good things take time, particularly in the whiskey business. And I opened my doors in 2015 when we started distilling. And so we're going on 5 years, 5-year anniversary.
Amazing. Congratulations on that. You make some really amazing products. I have several here in front of me. I have a little the Putnam rye. It's a New England rye whiskey. How does the New England rye whiskey style? Tell us about that and what makes your rye a little different for those who haven't had this whiskey.
I really do. I know you've got the rye in front of you, but we got to start with this guy.
Oh, we want to start with that one. Okay, great.
This is a single malt.
Tell me where you want to start. That's what we'll do.
I'm sorry, but
that's okay. I just went ahead and grabbed this one to make sure I wanted to have something to warm my voice up.
Cheers, Tom.
Cheers.
Always good drinking with you.
Yes, you too. You're so much fun. Okay, single malt's what I'm going to pour.
Yeah, this is really why I built the distillery. And honestly, I took a page out of Sam Adams' book. When Jim launched that, we launched lager instead of an ale. And, there were already, Anchor Steam and Sierra Nevada and plenty of craft microbreweries, as they were called then.
Right.
But his great-great-grandfather's recipe was from Germany, so they were allowed. Oh. So it was really about more. It was bigger and smoother and just bolder than some of the ales that were out there. And so when I really started thinking about doing something in the whiskey space, I realized that, and when we started in beer, German beer was the best in the world, and American beer was a joke. And
right.
In some ways, I'm not saying that American whiskey is a joke by any means, but of course, bourbon is America's whiskey.
Yes.
And it's made with corn, right? And so that's the reason for making whole grains, because craft beer is really an ingredient story, and that is not made with corn. Craft beer is made with whole grains. But Scotch at least was the most highly regarded whiskey in the world. And I think Americans can make great whiskey.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's why we're doing this. So it's 100% malted barley.
100%.
called the single malt. Yeah, right. Made grain to glass right here, which was great. It was the first whiskey we ever made. And last year we bottled our first bottle in bond, 100 proof, 4 years. And to me, that was a big milestone to get to. So I'm excited.
That is a big milestone.
So yeah, I mean, we all do. I think we all believe that Americans can make great whiskey, and there's lots of great bourbons out there, but American whiskey doesn't have to be corn based. It can be other things as well. So
this is beautiful. This is, and I know I think I tried it with you when I last saw you in Louisville. This is so complex and rich, and the notes of this, the kind of the nice chocolate buttery finish. What all is going on here?
Yeah, so it's 100% two-row malted barley,
right.
And we get our barley from Breese, because really when I started, there was nobody growing anything here in Massachusetts. Since there's a company out in Hadley, Mass, in Western Mass, they're making some grains. We got a lot of breweries here that are using those grains, so there's just not a lot of local stuff. Breese is what we used in the beer business, and they actually grow in northern Wyoming, southern Montana. That is evidently the best growing region for grain, for barley in the United States. So we do 100% two-row malted barley, which is the best, most concentrated barley you can get. 20% of it is this roasted malt that has this chocolate flavor to it. It's not actual chocolate.
That's why I'm getting, well, it has that roastiness.
Yeah. And the mash bill was inspired by just around the corner from the distillery in Lower Mills, which is part of Dorchester, where we are. It was America's oldest chocolatier. It was the Walter Baker Chocolate Factory, and that was the inspiration for the mash bill.
So the chocolate factory actually inspired the mash bill.
Yeah, there's lots of history in the area, as you know. I mean, there's history everywhere, but there's a lot of it, a lot of firsts here. And so we just keep going, finding.
That's amazing. So when you tasted the chocolate there, what your thought was, how can I carry over something that brings those notes in? Or when you say it inspired, describe that a little bit.
Well, they actually are defunct. I mean, they've been out of business for decades, but the idea of using chocolate to inspire the terroir from here, there was something that, to me, there's just a style that's used, and you know it. Like if you're drinking Texas whiskey, you know it. You know
that style. That's the style that you wanted to replicate.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Again, for those of you who are I noticed a bunch of people started joining us, and if you are joining us, you'll make sure you like this, share this on your Facebook, share this on your Twitter. We want a great conversation tonight with a lot of cool people watching and sipping. And tell us down below if you've tried any of the Boston Harbor Distillery spirits, or just tell us, what are you drinking tonight as Rhonda and I chat here. Yeah. Someone did actually have we'll go ahead and bring up one of the questions that is here. Go ahead and bring this up here. Says Rhonda, he's been a physical therapist for 30 years, looking for a career change, would love to get into the distillery business, looking for any recommendations on how to get started. Any thoughts for somebody thinking about getting started, Rhonda?
Well, whatever you think it's going to cost, the old expression, it takes twice as long and costs twice as much. Well, not to discourage you, but it actually takes 4 times as long and costs 4 times as much. The business is difficult, but it depends on what part of the world you're in. And if you want to send me a note, I'll be glad to get back to you. We'll set up a time to talk.
Yes. So definitely, Rhonda's a good person to ask. She's done such a great job building this. So excellent. No, I love it.
I gotta get you out here, Tom.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. This is really tasty stuff. So where can people find really any of your spirits, but the single malt that we start with, where can they find them?
Well, single malt is very limited, allocated. It's a good question. Distribution has really been one of the hardest things for me in this business, which is ironic because that's what I'm known for. I spent, almost 30 years in the beer business, breaking down doors for craft beer. in the Northeast, where we're located and where my products are only available in New England and upstate New York.
Wow.
And even then, it's a little bit of a needle in a haystack. But then you get those guys like Total Wine, which a lot of my other customers don't love Total Wine, but for a small business, they like us. They like small businesses, and they want to offer that to people. So you can find Putnam Single Malt at Total Wines. I just have to say, I was encouraged. In January, it's usually a very slow month in this business, but that was the first reorder I got, was for 3 cases of Putnam Single Malt from Total Wine.
Wow.
In January. So somebody's buying it.
It is just delicious. What's the retail cost on this?
So they're amazing. It's just about $56-7 there.
Wow. It's delicious.
It's $70 everywhere else. But what's so good, I just love the flavors that the barrels we're using. We actually, in the distillery, we have 4 different types of barrels, but for the single malt, we've only used 1. And it's a real heavy char, number 4. It's a beautiful barrel made by Oak Solutions. When we started the business, it was A&K Cooperage, and then I think Silver Oak Winery bought them. So these barrels that we're using for them, for single malt only, is just really, really exquisite. They're beautifully made. They look like wine barrels on the outside, but inside they're seasoned just perfectly.
Nice.
What's giving off, it's the melding of the coffee and the chocolate and the toffee that's just really coming through. And bottled at 100 proof, we did that so everybody could take it down a notch if they want. Or
it is, well, it has a nice warm nature. It doesn't taste, it just tastes just right. I mean, it has a real, and it's soft, but yet it has some nice warming nature. It's not too hot. It's really balanced, and it has that flavor journey that starts out one place, goes another, and that finish is that chocolate, that buttery note. It's
yeah, we got 91 points from this International Spirits. I don't know if that's Paul or Paul Pacall,
right.
But I did send it in, and we did get 91 points, which I was happy with. Yeah,
that is
for 100.
That's a great rating.
Yeah, but for the first whiskey we ever made, I was very pleased with that. And I do have to give kudos to the distillers. Actually, the very first hire that I made here, when I decided to start a distillery in 2011, 2012, was Dr. James Swan. And I don't know if that name's familiar to you, but he is considered the world's expert on whiskey maturation.
Wow.
And I started researching whiskey and who's getting awards. And evidently, at the time, I'm not sure if it's still true, the most awarded whiskey in the world was actually made by him.
Oh, wow.
In Taiwan, of all places. You don't think that would happen. But Swan was a brilliant guy. He, in his early days of being a little Scottish guy, he worked for Arthur Andersen, the accounting firm, and he was the guy that they made go into every basement, every barrel room in Scotland and figure out how do they account for the stuff. So we had to learn everything about the process of maturation. Right. And he became the expert on that. Unfortunately, he fell down the stairs in his home a couple of years ago in Scotland, and he passed away, and I miss him. Man. He was very inspirational for me and taught me a lot. And my master distiller, who has actually worked for a plethora of craft distilleries in the country, John Couchot, has really helped make this juice where it is today. So cheers to the distillers.
Yes, cheers to the distillers.
Really do the work.
To all those that have helped you. This is really lovely. I see we just have Brad Brunson's watching us, our buddy Brad. Brad.
There we go.
Brad of Amherst Cork.
The best in the business.
That's right. She's using your cork there, Brad. So cheers to Brad. And someone is asking, that's in the Midwest, looks like, finding some of these whiskeys. Where's the best place, I guess, to find whiskeys like yours online? You said ordering them, what's the best site we would go to?
Well, it's a good question, and I'm working on that now, and that's one of my goals to get out there. If they send us an email at hello@bostonharbordistillery.com, tell us where you live, we can tell you how to get it. But what we're doing in Massachusetts, they don't let us ship out of state. So they let me ship to consumers in Massachusetts where I need it the least, because this is where I have my distribution, or somewhat. But there's a store out of Rhode Island called Bottles Fine Wine that actually will ship and sell for us. Yeah.
It can become confusing, right, with all these different laws on where we ship in different states. I mean, since you've been in the business, how have you seen it change? It's definitely gotten a little better for craft distillers, right?
It's state by state. I just got off the phone with a guy in Connecticut that still can only offer 2 ounces, no cocktails, nothing else. So he's excited because there's some talk about change. When I started this business, I couldn't make a cocktail for 2 years. You know, it's tough to do that. And then talk about change in today's day and age, hand sanitizer.
Tell us about, I was about to say, tell us what's been happening since talk to us about what's been happening there since COVID's been going on.
Well, talk about confusion and what the rules are and what the laws are, and between the TTB, the FDA, and what's denatured and what's not, and what's taxable and what isn't. So what I did, I partnered with a local skincare company called Evolved by Nature. And we happened to be making single malt when all this thing hit. And so I did give out some heads to people coming in with their jugs, and I felt a little uncomfortable doing that. It wasn't a tax thing. We normally put heads in a spray bottle around here and wash our windows and clean our bar, and then we throw the rest away because we cut them off. But this company actually could figure out how they got the aloe and the glycerin and some spray pumps, and I couldn't even get any packaging. There was nothing by the time I started looking. So
it was just tough to find anything.
Crazy, really. I'm getting inundated with calls and emails about it, and we're donating everything. You know, everybody's donating everything. No one's
sure.
Any money.
So you were finally able to track down some bottles, and you've been just trying to find more, or?
Well, I'm just making stuff, and they're making the hand sanitizer.
They're making the
bottles, so that works out for me. So they called it, though, because it really is from single malt. They called it Single Malt Evolved, and they put a little barrel on it. Who knew? We've definitely come full circle.
There it is. It's going to kill the germs. Tell us about, just in general, from the perspective of just for you or any other craft distiller. I mean, we think about, yes, people are at home potentially ordering from liquor stores. Maybe they're having, a little more to drink at home because they have a little more time on their hands, or, and that's good. We're glad that most states are declaring liquor stores as an essential business. But what could it be like, or what might it be like for some craft distillers during this time when restaurants are shut down during COVID? How could it affect craft distillers?
Well, I can tell you firsthand, it's really tough, because outside of my facility, which we're open to the public for tours and cocktails on Saturdays and Sundays, and we do private events during the week. And this is a busy time, March, April, St. Patrick's Day in Boston's pretty big deal. Not necessarily for me, but for others. But outside of here, nearly 70% of my business is done in restaurants, just because I love that environment, and I believe that's the best way to build a craft brand. If you get a bartender, you get wait staff, you get it on the cocktail menu, it will sell. And people will talk about it and they'll know about it, and you build a relationship. But if you go to a store and everything's available, if for whatever reason it doesn't sell fast enough, it's sitting on the shelf, there's no way that you can hide that. It's there. Whereas in a bar, they'll just put it on a special menu and it'll be out, in a week.
They can move it. Yeah.
I mean, I have one, I don't have enough accounts, but I'm hopeful that it's kind of finally getting here in the Northeast. We're a little slow on some stuff.
Sure.
But one guy put my rye, Putnam rye, in an old fashioned on the menu. He called it the fashionable. And they sold like 50 cases of it last year. 50.
Oh, man, just because they pushed that cocktail.
Yeah, one
And that was that. Where was that, in Boston, or where was it?
It's in Boston, downtown Boston. Yeah.
The fashionable.
So my point to you was that it's very difficult. It's, almost 70% of the business is gone. And what is happening in package stores evidently is just like a lot of 175s, a lot of, Carlo and Rossi is moving again,
Right.
Value brands. And so it's not the time for our brands.
Right. So it is important for those people that enjoy good craft spirits to support craft distillers during this time, especially, always, but especially now.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Well said. Yes. Yeah. No, it helps. I did get an order today for a pallet of whiskey, so I feel pretty good about that.
That's
in
good.
The middle of a shutdown.
Right. And you think that it's the companies that have been around longer, it's some of the lower, like the lower the price values. That's what you're seeing is actually moving in liquor stores on the whole.
People are unemployed.
Right.
So
right. That's
watching their pennies. But hopefully when this, the government is offering a hand up for some of us small businesses, and I do encourage everybody to try to take care of it, take advantage of that, but take the hand up. We need it.
Sure. Without a doubt.
I haven't seen a check yet, but I applied 3 different times.
That's good.
I'll let you know when it comes. We'll do a little virtual celebration.
Oh, that'd be good. Definitely. Everybody watch and support Rhonda, and support us by, well, first of all, we're glad you're watching. Thanks for tuning in on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube Live. Definitely retweet this, share this on your Facebook now. Share it with your friends because we know you guys like a good whiskey. And ask questions down below. Rhonda, what do you want? What should we try next?
I would be remiss if we didn't just continue along the Putnam line for a second, just because it is my pride and joy.
Right.
And the rye.
We'll go with a rye now.
Yeah.
All right.
The rye is our #1 seller, and
excellent.
This was.
It's a beautiful bottle.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it tells a story. And so my distillery was built by this guy, Silas Putnam, in the 1850s. He automated the horseshoe nail manufacture, and he supplied horseshoe nails to both sides of the Civil War, right here out of this port in Boston. And the horse and rider is his relative, General Israel Putnam, who was a Revolutionary War hero. So that's where all the Putnam comes from. The rye is just so soft and easy. This is a 95.5 rye. And the reason why I don't start with it, even though it is my largest seller, is I do source unaged distillate, and we smith it down and we lay it down here. And I have 4 different coopers that I'm using, which is beautiful because we just blend them, and it just gives it this really unique, soft, silky, smooth flavor.
It is really soft. It's really, I mean, there's a real elegant note to it. And again, the age on this is about
everything is over 2 years old. So
every 2 years old. And I think it tastes a lot older. I mean, it has a lot of depth to it. It's elegant. It's very clean. And you're really looking at the cooperage that you're using. That's really important to you.
I think so. Yeah, obviously, because I don't make the distillate. So there's got to be, whether, it's the ambient air, 150 years of God knows what. Actually, my barrel room is folklore. This used to be Whitey Bulger's playground down here. The guy, the mobster. So in my barrel room happens to be a freezer, an old ice cream freezer. So it's all insulated. And they say that Whitey used to disappear him back there in the freezer.
Really?
You know what I mean, yeah. You couldn't hear the names.
Are there any stories
of this building, though?
Any stories of ghosts there or anything?
No,
or?
Only good spirits.
Just good, well, of course, good spirits, right? Of course.
All good spirits. So, and then this is a cast strength rye.
Oh, nice.
But it's finished in red wine barrels. And my neighbor is the Boston Winery, my landlord and my neighbor. Right. And so we're lucky because with every rent check, I get barrels. And So we're using Cab Franc barrels on this.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
having one now. It's delicious. And we bottled this one at 90. We have some that are, cast strength or 100, whatever proof. But this one was 90 for some reason. And
About how long is it finished for?
just like 3 months.
3 months, yeah. So it really gets that flavor nicely.
What I love about it is it adds just a dimension. It like a little ruby color, ruby sweetness to it. It's very nice. Very, very nice. Yes.
This is tasty stuff. I really like the this Putnam Rye, and I can imagine what was the cocktail you said that was called the
Fashionable.
What's in that then?
It's just an old fashioned, and the way we make
So
it.
it's an old fashioned.
2 ounces, yeah, no muddling. Just 2 ounces of Putnam, and then a little Angostura bitter dashes.
Nice.
A little simple syrup.
And it's a true Boston old fashioned.
Really, exactly. It's very fashionable here in Boston.
Very fashionable indeed. This now, as far as where you're at, the temperature, the atmosphere, everything how Boston and the East Coast would affect your whiskey. Talk about that a little bit. The terroir, the atmosphere, the climate. How does that affect your spirits?
I think it plays a huge role. I mean, we have it all. We have the dryness, we have the humidity, we have the heat, and it's in my freezer because I'll get back to that in a second. But the freezer was the last notable entrepreneur to have commerce here was an ice cream factory. And that was the inspiration for my liqueur line, ice cream flavors.
Ice cream, wow.
After I went out to Taiwan and to meet Swan, that's where I met him. And I learned a lot being there. And I learned that here's the most awarded whiskey in the world. They need to get their whiskey out of the barrel within 2 years. And the reason is, so my mother always said age is just a number. And now you know why. Because it's really what's in the bottle and how good it is. But there, if they didn't get it out, they'd lose it to either the angel share through evaporation, or it would turn to oak juice. It would just get so overly oaked. And so this is an 11,000 square foot distillery, and I rented out the first 7,500 square feet. And as we were building it out, I realized I'm going to run out of space to go to the bathroom. Our boiler rooms back there. So we ended up taking the adjacent space, which happens to be a freezer. So in the floors, ceilings, and walls, it's insulation. So as we were ripping it down, you see this cork insulation there. So we decided to put a temperature gauge back there, some heat. So when it's cold, like it is right now, we can just crank that sucker up for a week. And you see the whiskey goes in and out of the barrel, and you get that beautiful barrel sap. And
that's amazing.
Perhaps that's what's that's my New England terroir. That's
incredible, and it's all about taking what's around you and doing something with it, and letting that speak to your spirits. I mean, that's beautiful. Yes. And are we looking at the still that's right behind you? Is that the still?
Yes, this is my little baby Vendome copper pot. Swan was trying to get me to buy Forsyth stills from Richard Forsyth, you can imagine, and I was in love with them. They were expensive,
right?
But also, I almost did it, and then I realized, what am I doing? I'm here in Boston. I'm here to make whiskey right here, American whiskey right here in New England, in Boston, my hometown. And I thought, what the hell am I doing with Scottish stills? Because that's what happened in Taiwan. They took everything from Scotland and they brought it to Taiwan to make whiskey. It doesn't really kind of make sense.
Right.
So I didn't want to do that. So I went to Vendome, who's, America's oldest copper manufacturer. And I got their Econo model. And Swan said to me, you're not going to make good whiskey out of that still. And Couchot said, watch me. And he did. But the fun story about it is, how every piece of equipment used to make alcohol has a registered serial number on it. That one happens to be the 1,776 piece of equipment that Vendome Copper Works made. So
Wow.
76 ended up right here. Yeah.
That's amazing.
You can see it.
That is incredible.
And
Yeah, let's see it. Let's.
I can't really tell what you can see and what you can't.
I can see. Yeah, I can see the still. Yeah, it looks great.
There she
Amazing.
goes. Yeah, there it is. So everything has a story, and
That is.
everything has a story because it's all real. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's all fun. So I'll just help you out here. Like, what's next? Rum, and only because
You want to do the rum next? Okay.
yeah, the dark rum.
You want to do the dark rum? Okay.
I think so because
Excellent.
he was the next notable entrepreneur to have commerce here. Was this George Lally Shipyard?
Was Lally? Okay.
You can see that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice.
Okay. And Lolly's actually is famous for building America's Cup winning yachts. One of them graces our label. Right here is the Puritan. And they built minesweepers for World War II right here in this building. In fact, where our production area was a sand pit. And you can't see it, but there's 100 clear story windows here. There was no electricity. There were no utilities in this building even when we got here. So it's really amazing. So that was the inspiration for the rum, of course. Rum is America's spirit.
Yep.
And this is made New England style, and we call it New England style. Pre-Prohibition, there were more rum distilleries in New England than there were breweries. So if that's any indication.
There was a lot of rum made. This is beautiful. Now, what is and I know I've had some New England rums. What is a New England style rum? This is really lovely.
100% molasses.
100% molasses.
That's it. So it's 100% molasses and Quabbin Reservoir water, which is our Boston City water supply. It's the freshest water supply in the country. We don't have to treat it at all. So that's all it is. It's 100% molasses in Boston City.
What makes it the freshest water? I mean, why is that?
I can't even imagine because we have the oldest pipes to get it here, but it's really, I live in 20 miles south of here. I can't drink the water out of my tap, but I can.
This is so good.
It's so good. Anyway, it's beautiful. But one thing to note is it's not an aged rum. This one is a dark rum. We have a light, white rum, and we have dark rum.
And this is the dark rum.
This is a dark rum. So we don't age it in a barrel. This is important. What we do is it's like a vatted rum. We actually put the wood inside of a tank of rum and we let it sit there.
You add the wood to it.
Yeah, we add the wood to it. So it's like a vatted rum.
How long does it sit there?
About 8 weeks. Depends on time and temperature and what we have going on in the production.
Yeah, the sugars in it are just so they're so refined. I mean, it's just really beautiful. This is
I love the fact that maple syrup is our signature sweetener here, and molasses, like they're very New England ingredients. We grew up here, molasses, maple syrup. People drink maple syrup; they love it so much, and molasses too. So it's part of. That's really part of the New England terroir. But it was the inspiration was the whole triangle trade. It was slaves and ammunitions and molasses.
Right. Yeah. This is it. Obviously, really good on its own. Are there any cocktails that you like making with it, or do you just like sipping it? Or
actually, I do drink it on the rocks a lot.
Yeah.
But we do a nor'easter, which is our version of a dark and stormy. And it's so easy and so much better because A, our rum's in it. B, we use a great ginger beer, just really fiery ginger beer with some fresh lime and some bitters. That's all you need. And all this stuff you have it at home, which is great.
That's nice. Right?
And then to expand this is probably not the right label, but this is our gin.
The gin?
Gin. We just bottled this last week. It's the first time we're doing gin.
I'm gonna try the lead gin too.
Oh yeah, you have some gin.
I think I do. Yes, here it is. Okay, so first of all, I think that everything's been great because I had not had your rum. I'd had your whiskeys previously, but I had not had that rum until just now. I'm blown away by that. That's really, it's so good. It's complex. It's clean. It's I can see how it'd be great in a lot of cocktails. So it's really nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It is. Rum is, unfortunately, rum is really like a commodity. There's just so much inexpensive rum on the market. It's really hard to compete
Right.
with that. Luckily, whiskey's my first love, so that worked out well. But I have to have it. We're in New England, and it's really good. And they build
This is the gin.
here. I gotta have rum.
I just poured a little the gin, and the proof is 90 proof.
Yeah.
90 proof on the gin.
Yeah, it was 80 on the 80 on the rum.
80 on the rum. Let's give this a try.
So in that gin, it's very citrus forward.
That's nice.
And it's citrus. Lemon. It's all fresh, real lemon peel, orange peel, tangerine peel, orris root, angelica root, and juniper.
I love the fruit on it. It has a great, like you said, citrus expression, nice fruit expression, very fresh, very very vibrant. More fruit forward than mini gins. What inspired that?
Something different, and I love orange.
Yes.
We don't grow them here. we don't grow any of that here, but they're abundant, and we have a lot. We literally had them at the distillery because we sell so many old fashions with the orange swath. So we had the oranges left, and so that's what inspired it. Really, it's just the mother of
very tasty.
What do you have? What do you have in the cupboard? But I love it. And we waited all these years to make gin just because I didn't feel like we didn't have an idea to make one that was different or better. Or
something different.
So I think it is. And so I'm excited about that. And it's 90 proof. And this
hold up the bottle just once again, if you would there, Rhonda, of the gin. That's beautiful too. There we go. I see it here. How do you like to drink that? I mean, obviously, like gin and tonics by itself. How do you like it?
Well, sometimes I just have it on the rocks because it has so much flavor. I just sip it with a little lime.
Yeah.
Or even a little grapefruit juice or cranberry juice, just a little, because you just sip it. Oh, it's so good. Get you there.
It has a great fruit expression. It's lovely. This is really good. Everything Rhonda does is great. Rhonda, you're very talented. You've done a great job making all these. I'm really
my palate. Like, we were going to bottle some rye today, and we discovered by accident several years ago that the longer we aerate it after we blend 5-6 barrels of rye together at one point. I mean, when we're ready to bottle, and then we leave it out for a while and let it aerate. And just let those flavors just meld together. And I came in today, and my distiller was starting to bottle it. And I said, wait a minute, he's new. And I said, wait a minute, I'm the taster before that goes in the bottle. And I said, nope, it's not ready. It needs some time to really smooth out. And I think that's our signature is it's really, I have a good palate, but I'm not the distiller. So again, I want to give credit to those guys for sure.
Excellent. And when your distillery is open for tours, what's that experience like whenever it is open again?
Soon.
What would it be like for people? Give us an idea.
Yeah. Well, if it's just a walk-in, it's $15 and you get a little shot glass that you keep. And we take you into the room across there and we give you the whole history of the building and the place and how we've tied all the brands in. And they get to sample all along the way. And then they go into the production area and we teach them all about the distillation process. And then we bring them into the barrel room. Like, we want people to be educated because the more knowledge they have, the better they're going to drink. And that's good for everybody, the entire system.
That's absolutely right. Yes.
So, we give them a really good experience. It's about a 35-minute tour, but we also do VIP tours that you book in advance, and they're less number of people, and those are $40. And you go in, you drink out of the cask or the barrel, and you just get just more of a whiskey experience.
Right, you get to drink right from the. I want to come drink right from the barrel with you. That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
That would be great. What do we want to try next, Rhonda?
Let's talk about the Spirit of Boston.
Yes, I love this.
Yeah. And so what we've had it in 375s up until this year. We're going to start offering it in 750s. Again, allocated, limited. It's so limited because we take finished beer. We happen to have Sam Adams beer, which kind of makes it come full circle.
Come full circle. You have some of that Sam Adams, yeah?
Yeah, he charged me for it. But anyway, and it's expensive, but we've been buying this every year. So we actually have 4-year-old distilled Merrymaker gingerbread stout.
Oh, wow.
So we wait for them to finish their beer. It goes through their whole process.
It's 4 years old.
Right. So at the brewery, goes through their whole process, and right before it goes into the the bottle or the keg, we bring a half a tanker load here. And we run it through our still twice. We distill everything twice. We make our cuts, very narrow heart, and we lay it down in used barrels.
Wow.
Because we don't want too much of the wood to overwhelm those nuances. So what you're getting, this is Christmas in a bottle. So it's they use ginger and clove and nutmeg and cinnamon.
That is beautiful. So this is a beer again that took 4 years to make, the beer itself.
No, the beer probably took about 6 weeks for this.
Okay,
beer.
so we'll back up. So the beer again, they make the beer and then you age it for 4 years.
We do, yeah.
Okay,
We've actually started drinking year, but it's
beer, and then it goes to you, and then you age it for 4 years, and you're distilling the beer, so you're getting some of those beer. You're getting the beer elements, but as a whiskey.
Right, but the government won't let us call it whiskey because it has hops in it and spices.
It's called a spirit, but it's a process that one would make a whiskey.
Yeah.
With. So really, it's a spirit. So it's really interesting. I've seen this category out there, and it's one of those categories that I think really has a fan base, and that for people that haven't tried it, they should definitely try it, because if you are a beer fan, even if you're not, but most people who drink whiskey like some type of beer, it just does some really interesting things on the palate, because you're tasting some of those elements that were in that beer, but you're getting something else altogether different. Tell us about that category a little bit, and what, obviously we know what inspired the Sam Adams, but what really inspired you to make this type of spirit? Well,
again, I have to give credit to where credit's due, which is John Couchot. It's my master distiller, and he was the guy that helped Jack Joyce from Rogue in Oregon start his spirits division. And they took beer. John is a chemical engineer by trade. He has an unbelievable palate, and he's great at formulation. So he was really one of the first guys to do it. They turned Dead Guy Ale into Dead Guy whiskey.
Right.
So, 5 years ago, maybe it's 6 now, I don't even know, when we were building this place out, he's like, hey, Jim, why don't you call him up and get some beer? And that's really how it started. And I think it's fantastic. It's just, it's the evolution of beer. And, there's 8,000 breweries in the United States. And all of them, you think we're having a hard time. How about those guys that have all that beer in kegs?
Right.
Now, that's a ticking time bomb.
Because the spirits will stay good indefinitely, but the beer is going to be tougher. Yeah. What are you hearing from your friends who are brewers? I mean, what's the...
It's carnage. It's just absolute carnage out there. Yeah. Really, because beer is so live, they've shipped it all. They don't have a ton of kegs sitting around because they're live loading all the time. But, the whole industry is trying to figure out, what do you do with these full kegs that have gone out of code? Who's responsible for them? How are you going to ship them? How do you get the cooperage back? It's really, and then what happens when you pour it all down the drain? there's a lot of beer going down the
Right.
So anyway, I digress, but there's 8,000 brewers out there. And as we know that the process of whiskey starts off as beer, and therefore we've come full circle. And these breweries are already set up. The only thing they need to do is get a still, and they're going to be there. And it's just a matter of navigating the laws and the fire codes, and not to say that's easy.
Right.
It does take time, but it's doable. And I'm excited to really be almost at the forefront of the future. I think we're just going to see this all over the place.
You think we'll see more and more of that, especially as we come out of COVID, more brewers making whiskey as well? I mean, is that a prediction that you?
Well, we can only hope, because if
Right.
more of them make that, seltzer, it's like the lowest common denominator for me. Like, people can drink what they want, but that's not what I'm in this business for. I love going the other way on the flavor spectrum. And
Right.
this is a flavor bomb.
This is really big. I mean, you get so much of that, what's on that beer, but also just that aging. Can you hold up both of those bottles side by side, if you would, just so we can see both of them? There's the Merrymaker, which we've seen before. I know I've had that at some point, and of course the Spirit of Boston.
Yep. So
and does that come out only seasonally then? The Spirit of Boston is it kind of limited?
Yeah, it's limited, but really seasonally, because October, November, December, OND is really when we sell the most of it.
And the recipe is it a little different sometimes with regard to the beer that you use, or?
Yes, we actually have distilled 7 kinds of beer, and also Trillium, which is kind of a hot shit brewery now in Boston. We've distilled some of their beer as well, so we'll see what goes on with that.
That's amazing.
So it's fun, and we can do so much more of it. Like, that's the collaboration thing that I'll be excited about. And Sam Adams, it's where my legacy is, or hopefully this will be my legacy. But he bought Dogfish Head last year, or whenever that was. So I don't know where this partnership's going to go, but the good news is there's a lot of things to choose from. And we can do it with other breweries from anywhere in the country, though now you're dealing with shipping and all of that. There's plenty of great breweries right here.
So many.
Don't do it with bad beer. Do it with good.
Do it with the best beer, and if you can find the Spirit of Boston, this is limited. Get some of this. This is really lovely. It's really unique. It's just a whole different flavor experience for whiskey and beer lovers. Just to
when you think about it, Tom, it's like we take 3,000 gallons of beer, bottle ready beer, and we distill it down. We take all that water and we turn it into 84 proof whiskey.
How many of the 3,000 gallons how many gallons do you get out as far as whiskey goes?
About 230.
230. Wow. So it really diminishes.
Really, really.
That's amazing.
But all that flavor gets concentrated.
It gets in there. Yeah.
Amplified. It's really pretty special.
This is so good. Spirit of Boston, the Merrymaker. So nice.
We serve them in these little 375 3-packs. It's a great gift. Great gift.
They're really lovely. They're really beautiful.
Flavier actually bought all of them from us, and they if anybody's a member of that,
you can find them on Flavier.
Yeah,
Flavier.
They do.
Yeah.
Flavier. Yep.
And that's be the best place. If people want to look online to find them, they can find them there.
Yeah, they're really remarkable. You won't be dissatisfied. If you are, you let me know.
Oh, they're good. They're so good.
Yeah.
What do we want to try next here?
Well, and then I guess last but not least, we do have some good stuff in R&D that I promise that we'll talk about next time.
All right.
Getting close. But this is our liqueur. These are our liqueurs. And, we had the Putnam Nail Factory and the Lally Shipyard, and then it was an ice cream factory. So that's where all the inspiration came from. This is awesome. Well, they both are, but this is one of my favorites. This is a all-natural cold brew coffee liqueur made with local roasted coffee from Great Barrington, Mass. And
from Great Barrington.
Great Barrington.
Which is, I know I may have been, how far away is it from Boston?
It is the opposite end of.
Opposite end. I feel like I've been through there.
Yeah, to get to New York, like upstate or Hudson Valley, to go to Tide Hill Town, you had to go through there.
Right.
Did you see that Ralph retired today? Ralph Lorenzo?
I think I noticed that he's Ralph. Our good friend from the founder of Hudson, retired today. So he's. I think I noticed on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Good for him.
great guy. Yeah, and they've done such a nice job with that brand. We're really big fans.
He has. So anyway, we take coffee from Great Barrington. We have maple syrup from Cabot, Vermont.
Oh wow!
And Autocrat coffee syrup from Rhode Island, which is big around here, and blended it with rye, and we bottled it at 46 proof. And it's just an awesome upmarket to Kahlua.
So this is a blend of Massachusetts products, regions, all with your rye.
Yes.
Coffee, syrup. This is lovely. And how many different liqueurs do you do? Is it
just that one and this one? This
just that one and the other one, right? I remember I've tried that one. That's beautiful stuff.
This is really
so nice though. This is
also
the coffee notes on this are so beautiful.
They really are. So there's no sugar added. The sugar is maple syrup. So there's
that natural.
Yeah, it's natural.
That natural sweetness.
And you taste the difference right away. And it's not for everybody because there's a lot of people that like sweet stuff.
I like that it's more subtle and it has some of those. It has some earthy tones too for the coffee, which is nice. The sweet and the earth are both there. I love it.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
And then we mix it up with this, and I don't know if you can see that. This is a maple rum cream.
That's the maple rum cream.
This is the maple rum cream. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
The only thing we don't actually make here, but it is our formula. It's proprietary, and we're using Vermont syrup and rum. But we couldn't get the cream to work, and it was messy. So other people in Wisconsin are doing that for us. But you put these two together, and you call it a harbor slide.
You call it what?
A harbor slide.
Harbor slide. That's great.
Like a mudslide, only better. That's my favorite cocktail.
That's fantastic. We have some people there that are saying down below that they're going to be looking on Flaviar for your products, and we're just glad to have everybody watching. Please, as you're watching this, like this, share this, let everybody know about Boston Harbor Distillery. We want to keep on supporting great craft distilleries always, but again, as we talked about, so important during this time. Rhonda is just one of the coolest people in the business, and I'm just so glad to be chatting with you tonight, having a drink with you. And if you have any questions for Rhonda, ask them down below. You were mentioning earlier kind of about whiskeys from a certain region. Like if you have a Texas whiskey, that's a region. If you have a, whatever it might be. As craft distilling evolves, how do you see those regions being more and more defined when it comes to both your region and other regions with regard to, let's say just whiskey in general or spirits?
Yeah, I think it's already happened. I mean,
right.
Part of why I did this is I think there was like a white space in New England for whiskey. Whistlepig.
Yes.
Vermont, almost in the New York border. So I'm not sure we consider that New England around here, but really Boston area. There was nobody really doing whiskey because they loved it. Right. And that's what we were missing here. And so you could see my style's a little different, and it's a little smoother, and it's a little softer, and it may be a little bit more refined. Of course, Scotch is very peat driven. When I drink Texas whiskey, like Garrison's, you can smell the farm and
right.
smell the manure. Like
you're right, yeah.
Part of it, and that's when you're having a good nose comes in. West Coast whiskeys, not quite there yet, I don't think. Northwest, yes. I mean, they've always been at the forefront of everything up there. Right. And what they're doing is single malt and that whole, single malt coalition. So I think you're going to start to see bigger, bolder flavors, but yet each area will have their own signature taste and flavor, almost like beer. I mean,
right.
That's yeast, really.
Right. But with regard to the regions, I think you're right. I think you'll see more and more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it all.
Yeah.
With you.
Exactly. There's a little left we have to try. Just a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's what's happening on the scene. I will just say it's really exciting, and I'm very optimistic about the future. This is a very difficult time for a lot of companies, and the distilleries, I think, will be okay, not because they're making hand sanitizer.
Right.
Most of them that are giving it away for free
Right.
anyway. It's not about that. It's just because this, we can keep things in a barrel. We don't have to make it so nothing has to be as immediate like beer. And that's my orientation. That's my background, but beer goes downhill once it leaves the brewery. This isn't that. So I'm hopeful, and there's no reason why we can't share each other's style and terroir throughout the country. It's just a matter of getting the right distribution out there. So hopefully that will start to open up for us.
I agree. Excellent stuff. Now, this is it's so great to chat with you. We do this every night, Rhonda. Every night of the quarantine, we've been interviewing someone else that I think is just amazing in the industry, just like you. So thank you for being here with us, and for those of you watching us, we're going to keep this up permanently on YouTube. It'll be up there. It'll also be up on Twitter, Facebook. So make sure you like this, share it, go back and listen to those fine tasting notes from Rhonda and all that she's doing. Thanks so much, Rhonda. And how can people, I should ask, find you on social media and online? Where can they find you?
Yes, Boston Harbor Distillery or Boss Harb Distill, or you'll find me. I'm
all up there.
Well, nice spending an hour with you all. Cheers.
Thank you, Rhonda. Cheers.
Stay healthy, please.
Thank you for everyone watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. My guest will be Paul Hevko, founder of Few Spirits, will be joining us from Illinois, and he was excited to hear that you were going to be on tonight, Rhonda. So
likewise, say hi to Paul.
I will
watch tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Rhonda.
Guys. Cheers.
Have a good night.